so different. Good morning, good morning, good morning, my We Are Not So Different family. Thank you for tuning in to yet another episode. This morning's guest, now I should have asked before, but I didn't, is that Baerg?
It's actually Baerg. The A is just there for looks, is what I tell my students.
It's there for looks. Okay. Baerg, Miss Ginger Baerg in the building this morning. How are you, Miss Ginger?
I'm doing really good. Thank you.
So, I want you guys to find your favorite spot on the couch, get your favorite drink, and relax. We're going to take it easy this morning. It's one of those kind of mornings. It's raining outside. How's the weather where you are?
Cold.
Yeah, a lot of cold. So cold, rainy. So find you a nice little plush blanket, something that you can cuddle up with and just relax. It's that kind of day. So Miss Ginger Baerg is a wife, mother, and high school math teacher. God called Ginger and her husband Dustin to grow their family by fostering and adopting. Over the past 7 years, the Baerg family has fostered 6 kids, have adopted 2, and become a family of 7. Welcome, Miss Ginger, family of 7. That's a lot.
Yeah, it is. But it's a lot, though.
It's what?
It's a good a lot. Like, it's not a
Yes,
bad
of sure. While I'm talking, my mom and dad had 5 kids, so it was a family of 7. So I guess, but that was a lot. But it was
Well,
a good lot.
I came from a family of 6, and even at that time, it was kind of like a big family for the time. And so now a family of 7 is definitely an oddity for sure.
Yes, ma'am. But that just means more love to go around.
Yep.
So, Miss Ginger, I ask my guests the same 2 questions every single time just to jump this thing off, and you don't get an exception. So, first question, if you have the undivided attention of an audience of your choosing, who would that said audience be, and what would you tell them?
It would be an audience of people considering foster care or starting the process of foster care.
Okay.
And I would tell them to seek a community of supportive, like-minded people that are going to help you through the hard times, because there's going to be some amazing times, but there's going to be some really hard times. And that's just the reality of foster care and taking care of kids from trauma. And you need to support yourself with people that are going to speak truth into your life, that are going to remind you of your calling, and that are not going to, even though it's out of love, tell you this is just too hard, you need to stop. Because people who love you will tell you that, and they really do mean the best. But that's not what you want to surround yourself with when you are going through those hard times. You want to surround yourself with people that will be like, yes, this is hard, but yes, this is what God called you to, and he's going to equip you for your calling, and we're here to support you, and we're going to help you through this. But that would be my biggest thing, is surround yourself with people that are going to support and encourage you to keep going with your calling when it gets hard.
Yes, ma'am. And I can only imagine that just from that statement, I got like 20 million questions that popped up, like about the groups. Like, are there groups? I mean, that sounds dumb, right? I would imagine there must be, because you're talking about them. So support groups.
To be able to have a group of people that actually live near me.
Oh, wow.
So my church actually has a lot of families that have adopted or fostered. And so I am very lucky to be able to have that in person, where I can actually be like, meet with them, and we can share our struggles and our victories, and, point each other, back to the truth when it's really hard. I'm still looking for some Facebook ones. I've tried a few, but I feel like they just get really negative, and so I end up leaving them, because I just don't want it to be a complaining session, because there is a lot that's hard about foster care. And yes, you need to vent, but it needs to be positive and encouraging. And I feel like the new people coming in, if that's the environment, that's just going to be really discouraging. And so, yes. So if you do not have people in your area, I would say reach out, like email me at my Patchwork Family book at gmail.com, or email other people you know. Just find people that are positive and find a way to get in community with them. That'd be my recommendation.
Yes. Okay. Awesome. Find your community, people. Okay. And secondly, if you had the opportunity to talk to a younger version of yourself, let's say like 5 or 6 year old Ginger, what do
Oh
you
my.
think little Ginger needs to hear?
Well, little Ginger was pretty selfish, so she needs to hear get over herself first of all.
Okay. All right.
And I think it's just just follow God's calling. Don't worry about, I mean, yes, listen to people that God's put in your life to, guide you, but just don't worry so much about what other people are telling you should be doing. Follow the gospel, follow the Bible, and follow God's calling. And then surround yourself with people that you trust that can tell you when you're getting off. But don't put so much stock in what the good Christian thing to do is, when it doesn't always, when it's more just tradition or someone saying
Yeah. Yeah.
instead of the truth.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Cool, cool, cool. So, um, I love that you are, well, you refer to you guys fostering and adopting as a calling. And I am in wholehearted agreement with you. And I've said this before and I'll continue to say it. It takes a certain breed of human being to do what you do. Um, when did you know? Like it's a calling, right? So when did you hear the call? When did you know, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing?
Yeah, it's actually an amazing story. So my church has women's get-togethers sometimes, where it's just women and we talk, and usually one of us shares something, that God's doing in their life right now. And so it was an ice cream social,
Okay.
and I was just sitting there eating my cookie dough ice cream, chatting, just enjoying time with my friends. And a lady from our church was sharing they were about to adopt their third kiddo from overseas. And
Wow.
she was sharing the process and how God had led her and her husband, to this calling and just all of that. And all of a sudden, like mid bite of ice cream, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm supposed to adopt. Like it hit me out of nowhere, right?
Whoa.
And I go home and I tell my husband, I was like, babe, I think we're supposed to adopt. And his response was, no, I don't think so. So I was
I
like,
was just about to say, what did your husband say? Okay.
so I told God, I was like, okay, if this is our calling for a family, I'm not bringing it up again. Like, you need to talk to his heart on his own. And he, I want him to come to me and say, yes, this is what we're supposed to do. And I'm just going to pray about it until that time, because I don't want it to be where I'm trying to be the Holy Spirit to him, or I'm nagging on him.
Right.
And so it was like a few months later, I actually had to stay home from church because I had a really bad sinus infection. And so and at that time we had 3 biological kiddos, and they went to church, and he came home, and I was just, in bed, like all cuddled up and just feeling like garbage. And he jumps into bed and he's like, babe, we're supposed to adopt. Like, at church, like, do it. And I was like, what? And so that was my confirmation that was definitely God's calling on our family. And at that point, my husband was finishing up his engineering degree. He had gone back to college, after we had gotten married and started having kids, for his engineering degree. And so he had 1 more semester left. So we took that semester to really pray and research and talk to
Yeah.
families and different types of adoptive situations, like domestic adoption, international adoption, adoption out of foster care, just to see where God specifically was leading us. And by the end of that semester, we both felt very strongly that we were called to foster, with the possibility of adopting if they were not able to, get back with their, biological family. So
I love it. So a lot of times, and I do, because if God will tell us as women something, right? And then we tell the husband or bring it to the husband, nope. Like, so I don't even waste time anymore. I'm like, okay, Lord, I hear you. I need you to
Mhm.
go tell him. So that way I don't want to have to convince anyone. Like you said, I'm not
Right.
trying to be Holy Spirit to him.
Mhm.
And he is head of the household, so I'm going to submit to that authority. So Lord,
Yep.
I'm going to just speak to both of us. But
Yep.
I love that you guys, there was your confirmation.
Mhm.
And then you guys got together, prayed about it, and then you said fostering. So adopting is one thing, fostering is another. Now, when you came home, you said, we're supposed to adopt. But then as he led you further into the process, you're like, okay, we're going to adopt and foster. I just can't wrap my mind around bringing this human into my house, into my home, into my heart, and not knowing, well, not, you do know that they're probably going to leave. Like, I don't
Mhm.
know. I don't know. Like, can you put that into words? Like I'm having trouble even putting the question into words, but it's like you bring this human and you know that you're gonna love it. You have to love him or her. You have to.
You have to.
Not just like out of obligation, but you have to because it's a human being, right? And they
Mhm.
crave love. So you
Mhm.
have to love. You have to pour your heart out to
Yep.
this human being, knowing full well that they don't get to stay.
Right. Yeah, so it's not easy. I can tell you that much. And it's almost a little hurtful when people say, like, oh, I could never do that. I'd get attached. Like they're assuming that you don't get attached. I don't know if that makes sense or not, because
Yeah.
to be a good foster parent, you have to get attached. These kids need a healthy attachment to heal from what has happened. And even though you know that more than likely this is going to end with your heart being literally ripped out of your body, you have to do it for the kids. Like, and it's not easy. And there's times where, like when our first sibling set of three, so our first placement was a sibling set of three. So we went from 3 to 6 kids, over,
Wow.
and we had them for a year. Like I was their mom for a year. And when they left, I mean, it was rough. It was so hard. And like there'd be times where I just randomly start crying. I mean, I just want to be totally transparent. Like it was not easy. And and then you almost are like, can I do this again? Like, can I, put my heart through this again? And I think God was really amazing because our next placement, we knew going in it was going to be a short placement. He had family that wanted him, but they had to get their house ready. So we were able to take care of this adorable little guy for just 2 weeks. And it was like, I still, you get attached, but different when like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It's, baby, it was almost like an aunt role, I guess I would
Yes,
say.
that's what I was just thinking. Like, let me spoil my niece or my nephew for these 2 weeks. Yeah.
Exactly. And so I think that that was very good for me to have that for sure, like 2 weeks. You're gonna have him 2 weeks and then he's gonna be gone. So like I could love and invest in him, but I don't know, it was like a different thing. And that helped me to be able to be like, okay, like I can't do this again. But our next placement was actually the little guy we ended up adopting. And I remember the first night I put him to bed, he was 4 months old. And I remember crying and telling God, like, this one's going to break me. Like, if this one
Oh.
leaves, it's going to break me. And obviously, we still did it, but I was like, and then it turned out, that he ended up needing to be adopted. I can't really share the details, but he needed a family to adopt him. And so he was one that, just from the get-go, it was like, oh man, this one's gonna get me. And obviously, if he would have had to leave, if his family was able to take him, I would have, God would help me through it. But that one was, yeah, I had that conversation night one, and I was like, I don't know. So, and it's really good when they're going to a good situation. Like I had another little guy that we fostered for a year, but they had, an aunt and uncle that wanted to adopt them, and we got to meet them, and they were just an awesome family. And that was so much easier knowing like they're going to this amazing family that loves them, and they're still kind of in the area. So we were able to invite him like a year later to a birthday party and just kind of see him. And, we didn't do too much right away because we wanted to make sure he understood like, hey, now with this family, because he was still really young. So that one was a little bit easier, just being able to meet the family, and that was really cool. Did I
Wow.
answer your question? I tend to ramble sometimes.
You know, the rambling is where you find the little honest tidbits. I am a lover of candid conversation. So ramble on, girlfriend, ramble on. I love also how you have like God will sometimes he will well not sometimes oftentimes he will weave in our gifts with our natural personality. In natural, you're a teacher, so you already have a fondness and affinity towards children, right? And then you take it into your home, so now you have this calling where you're called to love kids. Like that is your job and that is your heart. And I think how awesome how he lines those things up for us. Um, so recently you did a thing and I want to talk about the thing that you did recently. You wrote a book entitled My Patchwork Family. I want
I
you to tell
did.
us all about it. The who, the what, the where, the why, the when, all of it. Give us the deets.
Sure. Okay. So to backtrack, the concept of it actually started when our oldest daughter, that we just adopted about a year and a half ago, came to live with us. And we knew that we were going to adopt her. She needed an adoptive family going in. And so we wanted to make sure she felt welcomed and loved and part of our family from the get-go. So one of the first things we did within a few weeks is we did family pictures with her, just so she really felt like, hey, you're not adopted yet because there's this whole list of things we have to do, but you're our family. You're here to stay. And so after we did the pictures, I made this cute little slideshow with like a voiceover, like these are the patches of our family and they're all sewn together, and like just a little like 2-minute video for her mainly, but for all the kids, just to kind of talk about how our family comes together like a quilt.
Yeah.
And after that, I was like, you know what, I should like write this down as like a little story for our family. Like originally it was just for our family, but being a high school math teacher, I'm friends with a lot of high school English teachers, so I had a few of them like proofread it just because I wanted it to be nice. And one of them actually met with me and she's like, girl, like you need to share this story. Like your family story needs to be shared. It needs to be told. And at first I was like, no, like it's not good enough for that. Like I'm not ready to be that vulnerable. Cause once you put something out there for the world,
Yeah.
there's no taking it back. And this is my
Yeah.
family. So like at that point I wasn't quite ready. But then a little bit later, I decided, maybe I should. Like, I shared it with a few more people and I was getting really good feedback. And so I was like, okay, maybe I should share this story. So I sent it to a handful of publishers and agents, and I never heard back from any of them. And so I was like, okay, well, maybe not. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe this is just supposed to be for us. But then at the beginning of this year, I really felt like it was time. Like, it was time to self-publish in order to share this story. And so my amazing friend, Michaela Tucker, who also does all of our pictures, has an art degree. And so she did the illustrations for me.
Oh, wow.
And we did a Kickstarter to be able to afford to order all the books. And so they're almost here. They're stuck in customs at the moment, but they're like
Wow.
almost, they're like
Okay.
but it's about our family story, and it's told from my oldest biological son perspective. I feel like a lot of times the kiddos in foster families, the biological kids, they don't have a voice that's heard. Like people always are like, man, foster parents are amazing, but they forget about the love and sacrifice that the kids also make.
Oh, because they're going through it too, right?
They are. Like when those 3 kids moved out, our first placement, I mean, it didn't just tear my heart out. My kids, I mean, they literally were trying to give them every possession they owned when they left. They were like, oh, take this. Oh, take this. Like, you might need this. And I mean, one thing about my kids is that they love wholeheartedly when kids come into our house. Like, there's no like, let's see what happens. I'm going to see what you're like. It's like, nope, who are we going to love next? Like, you bring them in,
Oh,
we're going to love them. I mean, obviously they still fight like siblings too, but
well, yeah.
like they like siblings. And so I really wanted to show that. And it's also really cool because my son always wanted a little brother, but we only had 2 daughters biologically after him. And then the first kiddo we adopted, was my son. And so he randomly will still be like, I still can't believe I have a little brother. It's so cool to have a little brother. And so I kind of wanted to highlight that in the book, like that God brought him a brother just in a like kind of unconventional way. And so that's kind of about the book. And so it's, like I said, it's stuck in customs, but it's almost here. And I'm so ready to
Wow.
have it and like be able to share our story with everybody.
Wow, wow, wow. And it's called My Patchwork Family.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'm going to need, we got to keep in communication after this because I need to know when it comes out. I want to help in any way promote it. Like, I'll post it all over my pages, like, because I just think it's this beautiful display of love. And then when to know that it's like based on a real story, like this is like you said, it's something intimate. And I can understand why you are hesitant to like share it, but
Mm-hmm.
but on the same in the same vein, that's why you had to share it because it is so intimate, because it is so pure, because it is like it's like the love of Christ, but
Mm-hmm.
in like a regular everyday modern family. And people need to see that it's possible. We don't always get it right, and I'm sure it's difficult, but people need to see that it's possible. I love everything that it represents. I love it.
Cool. Yeah, we are super excited. And then, did I tell you yet that my oldest daughter that I adopted and I are working on the second book, and it's her story? Have I told you that? I can't remember. It's
Yes. And I didn't know if I could talk about it here, but since you brought it up, yes.
I am so, so, so excited. That one's going to probably be a little ways because, like I said, we still haven't even gotten the first one and we need to see how that's going. But my oldest daughter, she was actually 12 when we adopted her. So she has quite a story to share. But it was super important to me that she be in charge of what part of her story is shared and how it's shared. And so she helped me with determining what she wanted to share and like kind of how, and then I wrote the book. So it was definitely a work that we did together. And
I
so
love it.
that one is called My Patchwork Family Lavender Story. So that'll be out in a little while. I'm not sure exactly when, but the Lavender is I didn't use my kids' actual first names in the book just for
Right.
safety reasons. So Lavender
Certainly.
is the name I used for her. So that's one I'm super excited about too.
Wow, wow, wow. And I love that. Like you're so like thought. You're like you put thought behind this. Like you said, how old is she? 12?
Well, she's 13 now, but she was 12
Okay.
when we adopted her. Yep.
Well, you still though, like so she has the opportunity. She has a say.
Mm-hmm.
Like like she has a say. Like no one made up her mind for her. She gets
Right.
to tell the story her
Yep.
way. I love that. Like she's gonna be a 13-year-old author.
Yep.
How I mean, how cool is that? Like, I don't know.
Yep.
I think it's pretty cool. And I don't know, maybe if she feels like it or if mom is comfortable, or maybe if she, I don't know if she's that, maybe it's not cool, but I would love to have little Miss Lavender come speak with We Are Not So Different. Like,
Oh my gosh, she would absolutely love that one
oh my
specifically.
gosh,
Yeah.
yes, okay, mom, let's make it happen. Like, I think it's so cool. Like, anytime like and I don't know, I have nothing against you guys. I love y'all boys. I love y'all men. But it's just something about the little girls. And maybe it's because I once was one. But something about the little girls, man, they tug at my heart. And I feel like if we can get to them at a younger age and we pour and pour and pour into them, like we have the capacity to like really have some foundationally sound world changers. You know what I'm saying? Okay,
Yep.
let me get
Yeah,
off my
totally.
soapbox. So, I wanted to ask some questions about because you said if you had the audience an undivided attention of an audience that you would speak to people who are looking to get into the process of adoption and or fostering.
Mhm.
So what was that process like for you? I mean, was it a lengthy process? Was it a costly process? Like was it very like was it intrusive? I don't know. I never really considered like what it would take. So
Mhm.
what is can you explain what your process was like getting into it?
Yeah, so in Kansas, you have to do 10 weeks of courses, which are called MAP courses, and it
Yeah.
stands for something I just can't remember. It's
Okay.
MAP. And it's 1 day a week, and it's about 3 hours on that day.
Wow.
So for about 2.5 months, I think ours was on Thursday. We had like a 3 hour course that we had to go to, everyone. And when you learned about just trauma and parenting kids in trauma and how to work with, biological families and how to work with your worker and just a ton of different things. And so that was the first chunk. So that was about 2.5 months of that commitment. And there was homework that you had to do sometimes and everything like that. And then it was a matter of getting your house ready for inspection, which is pretty intrusive. And then you also had to have like, the most expensive part was like, you have to have first aid kits in your car, but they have to be like, have these special, unique things that don't come in normal first aid kits. So it's like buying
Okay.
all of these supplies to make kits and like having to add extra gates. And, it's just a matter of like the main cost, the only cost per se is getting your house and your cars and your property to all of the things that they ask you to do, which
Mhm.
wasn't an obscene cost, but it definitely was something that was more than I was expecting. I was kind of like, okay, this first aid kit's expensive. Like, I thought I could just go to like Walgreens and just buy a first aid kit,
Right.
but no, it had to have like certain things. So, and then it's hard. I think the other hardest part is like you have people in your house all the time, which I'm not like a super super private person, but I definitely like my space.
Yeah.
You have to kind of come to terms with the fact that there's going to be people in your house like after the inspection, you meet with the family has a worker and then the kids have a worker, and so you try to make that meeting the same where you all meet together, but sometimes you can't, so you might have like 2 different meetings every single month where they come in and they have to look at the house, make sure everything's good, talk to the kids, and so that's definitely, I mean, it's not a huge thing, but you have to be okay with people coming into your house and not really judging, but sort of judging. Like they have to make sure you're doing your job, which is good. I mean, you
Yeah.
make sure foster families are taking care of the kids, but you also have to be okay with letting people kind of in your house that you don't know going into it. But we were super lucky. Our family worker was amazing. Like she was the best. Like I don't know if I could have made it all the way through like we did without her. Yeah, she's amazing.
You said was like, so is it like a certain time period for the first, I don't know, maybe year or so, or like how does that work?
So you have a worker the whole time you're fostering. We currently are not fostering. Our 13-year-old daughter has a lot of trauma, and in order to be able to help her kind of heal and get over that, we felt like we needed to not do foster care for a while and give her the stability and attention that we just can't give her when we're fostering. So we currently are not fostering until I think it'll be a little while before we can, just because she's making some amazing progress, but we feel like we need to be able to have the time and attention to help her and the other kiddos, just through some of the, I mean, I have 3 middle schoolers this year, and I thought that toddlers were hard, and no,
Three middle school, like sixth, seventh, and eighth grade?
yes, yeah, yep.
Okay. So yes,
But I
you
do, yeah, I do strongly feel that we're going to foster adopt again in the future. It's kind of funny because my husband's the same thing. Nope, and I'm like, okay, God, if that's what you want.
I need to go talk to Dustin again.
But usually God tells me first when it's time for more fostering or adopting. And I think it's because I take longer to accept some stuff. Like my husband, man, if he thinks we're supposed to do something, we're doing it today. Like he is very much like, let's do it. Whereas me, I'm like, are you sure, God? I don't know.
You want to take some time, more time to think about it. I'm open to that, God.
So I feel like God kind of gives me more time to get, I don't know, get that under wraps in my brain. Whereas once he tells my husband, it's like tomorrow, like it's go time. So
I love it. My husband, he's like, let's do it. I heard it. Let's go. Like, I just hold on one second. Let me go. Can we go have a conversation with Holy Spirit? I'll get right back to you.
yes, agreed.
So a lot of the thing, and we don't have to get into it because I don't want to do specifics because I respect your privacy. But so you speak about your daughter having been through trauma, and one of the things that you learn in this schooling is through about the trauma, because you don't know where the kids are coming from, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
but once they're here, you have to be able to, you have to be equipped to handle basically whatever's thrown at you with the assistance of the helpers and the other ladies, of course. So I guess I would like to know, how do you deal with this trauma? You said that you had three children, and the first foster set was a sibling set trio. So you basically doubled like your child ratio overnight, not knowing what was coming into your home. So say it wasn't these three, say it was another three, another set or whatever. They come into your home, they've experienced mass trauma. So now they're in your home and it's something that you have to deal with, but you also have your biological children.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if they are part of the training, the 10-week classes that, you and your husband had to go through. Like, how are these children, your biological children, impacted by the trauma that your foster children have often experienced?
That is a good question. So they do not have any sort of classes for kids, which I really feel like they would, because I mean, I feel like it's even harder on kids because they don't have any control of, really the situation.
Yeah.
And
Not only that, not they don't have control, but they don't have the wherewithal. They don't have, however you all, like say you're 30. They don't have 30 years of life experience to tell you, okay, this is how I navigate certain things. Like, they're kids.
right. Yeah. No, I agree. And like one thing that we've had to start doing with our daughter is if she's having, I call it fight or flight, like something will, and she doesn't even know exactly what it's going to be, or we don't know what it's going to be. Something will kick on her fight or flight where it will make her feel like she is in some sort of danger and will like revert back to what things were like when she was younger. And it's like she is no longer logical, and it's like, I'm no longer me, I am the abuser, and she'll lash out at me. And so what we've had to start doing, and we've talked to her when she's not escalated, is we literally have to like lock her out of the house with one of us out there so that the other kids are kind of, protected from that a little bit, if that makes sense. And she knows, like, as soon as you're calm, you are welcome back in. Like, we're not kicking you out because we don't want you. We're kicking you out so that you can be safe and so that the other kids can be safe. And so that's usually called a safety plan, where you kind of have to know, like, what is your plan if things go really crazy. And not all kids will have that. Like, some of our other foster kiddos, they were like internalizers. So we had to be more careful of them doing things that would hurt themselves, if that makes sense, instead of lashing out to others. So it's going to look really different, and you don't know when they come in your house. You have no idea what, I mean, sometimes you'll have a little bit of an idea, but a lot of times you have no idea what they've been through or how they're going to handle it. And so, but I mean, my kids, I mean, I've really also encouraged them, like, hey, once the person's calm, you need to be honest with them, tell them that scared you, like, you need to communicate. And they're like, well, I don't want to get them mad. And I was like, but it's your house too. And like, no, you don't do it meanly, and you don't do it harshly or out of anger, but you do need to be honest and be like, hey, it really scares me when you do that. And so, I mean, our daughter has gotten really good with apologizing to the whole family. Like, just like, hey, I'm sorry if that scared you. Like, this is what I'm going to try to do next time before I get to that point. Like, trying, because we're really working with her on, when you're starting to feel yourself go up, how can we help you so you don't get to that point? Because no one likes it when you're at this point. You don't like it, we don't like it, like, it's not good. So what can we do when you're down here and you start to feel it? Like, when you start to feel yourself. And that's one of the biggest things. I wish that there was more trauma training before we fostered, because if I could go back and foster, our first sibling set again, I would have done so many things different. But you're just doing what you do the best you can till you know better, and then you do better, that kind of a thing. And so I think trying to be able to catch it when it's starting to ramp up is one of the biggest things I've learned about trauma and just kids with trauma, and just try to get it before it gets to the red is kind of the thing we think of. So So I do a lot of check-ins with my daughter, like, how are you feeling? Do you need to get stuff off your chest? Because if she can kind of start spewing stuff off before it builds up to the
Yeah.
point, it just does so much better. And she's gotten really good with working on, because she was used to, for 12, before she came to live with us, so like 11 years, I can just take care of it myself. I've got to do this myself. Like, it's all on me. Like, she's not used to leaning on parents to be parents. And so she's starting to learn, hey, I can tell them that I'm really upset about this. And they might not be able to fix it, but they can say, yeah, I'd be upset about that too, or, that kind of a thing. And so that, I feel like, is really helping.
Man, I think like your kids are going to be some of the most, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. Like they're getting some experience that a lot of grown people walking around here have never had. They are learning how to accept, they're learning how to love unconditionally. They're
Mm-hmm.
learning how to recognize triggers and or unhealthy behavior and how to love someone in spite of. Like that is a gift to receive at such a young age and learn how to navigate emotions. So
Mm-hmm.
emotional intelligence, like that is a gift. Like, and they don't even know it. like they're going to be so well equipped, like these well-adjusted human beings walking around loving like Christ. It sounds awesome, Ginger. One of the things you said in our conversation, you said, um, they need someone to champion them. They need someone to love them. I think I love this because I feel like it's your heart on full display. Um, and you're absolutely right. Like human beings, little and big, need to be loved. But yeah, the little ones especially because it's like their starter kit, like it's their foundation, and you're bringing these little people into your home, and then you're literally pouring out all of your love into them. Hopefully, like it's like the Grinch that stole Christmas, and then like his heart gets bigger. Their hearts get bigger, and you have this part in it. Like, so have you ever thought, like, have you ever sat, and not to be like vain or anything like that, because you seem like a real down to earth chick, but have you ever sat and thought about the impact that you get to be a part of? Like, you can potentially impact generations. Have you thought about it? Because it's not just one person, it's that one person and all the people whom they encounter. And then if they get a family and if they make little ones, like you have a hand in this. Like, have you ever thought about that?
I don't. I'm definitely a harsh person on myself. Like, what
Oh,
I sit and think about is how I messed up today, and so that's something that I've been working on, because like that's like if I have a huge accomplishment, I'll be like, okay, that was good. Now let's do something. Where did I mess up though? Like, and
Ginger.
so that is so. Anyways, no, that's not. So normally that is something I have thought a little bit, but more about like my daughter. I think about like, man, look at how much she's grown. Like when she first came with us, she would run away when it was time for school. Whereas, like she would do this, and I'm like, look at how much you've grown. Like, you'll tell me when, sometimes, not always, but you'll tell me when you like need a hug now instead of just exploding because you need a hug. Like and she's the one that will like leave me love notes in my lunchbox. And and so I'm working on trying to see, not just focus on where I'm needing to grow, but trying to balance it. Like I don't want to get where I'm like, oh man, look at me, I'm so amazing,
Well,
so
no,
either. But
no.
accepting that I'm doing God's calling and I'm never going to be perfect this side of heaven, and that's just how it is. So
You know what? Listen, ma'am. And I love it. And God loves a humble person too. I love it. It's okay to celebrate the small successes though. Like it's okay. It's okay. I want you to extend that same grace that you extended to these babies. I'm gonna need you to extend some of that to yourself. Dustin, where's Dustin at? Let me talk to him.
Dustin's actually out with his brother having a good time today, so he's having some
Okay.
much needed downtime.
Okay,
So.
good. Well, yeah. I mean, I'm gonna need Ginger. It's okay to pat yourself back, to celebrate the small successes and the big ones too. I mean, I think that'll help you along with the grace of God. It'll help you continue to spur that passion, to continue to keep that fire going, because yes, it's literally the grace of God. I can't see it as anything else, and I'm sure that I'm sure of it. Prayer has got to be a big thing in your household.
Yeah, especially when things are not going according to plan, which it is anytime, but that's when I'm like, okay, I got nothing. Like you're gonna have to
Yeah,
take over. I don't have anything in my toolbox anymore. Like I've done everything, so it's all.
and
And
that's
that's
how it's
usually
supposed to
when it
be.
turns around the best. So yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
God likes to take us past what we can do on our own, just to be able to see that it's not us. Like
His strength is made perfect in our weakness.
exactly.
Yes, he will show you that thing, love, again and again. Father, help us. Okay, so I want you to use this time to tell my listeners where they can find you. You want to get websites, social media hashtags, whatever. And I'm dead serious. We're gonna have to do this off scene, of course, off camera. But like, I, I, I surely would love to speak to Lavender at your convenience. Like, go ahead, pray about it, get confirmation from Holy Spirit and all that good stuff. But I'd love to sit and speak with her, and I want the book. So I'm gonna need you to get in contact with me when Customs release her book in the name of Jesus. Loose it, Lord. So when your book is, home and with you, I want to be able to tell people where they can get it and how they can access it. So yes, this is your time. Have it.
So I do have a website, and once they're in, you'll be able to buy the book on the website for a little bit cheaper than Amazon, because Amazon I have to pay an extra fee. But right now on the website, you can put in your email address, and I'll email you as soon as the books are in if you're wanting to be up to date. And that's mypatchworkfamilybook.com. So if you go there, there's a place on the first page to put in your email address. There's also like an explanation and more about me and the book, and you can learn more about the illustrator as well. And then if you just do my patchworkfamilybook@gmail.com, that's my email. So that's another option. I would love to hear from you guys, especially if you're considering foster care or adoption. I would love to invest in you and talk to you and just be real and honest, but also uplifting. And yeah, I'm trying to think, was there something else you asked me? My mind's wandering.
Social media handles, whatever. I just wanted you to tell people where they can find you.
So on Facebook and Instagram, if you just look up My Patchwork Family or hashtag My Patchwork Family Book, you can find me, and I try to update things on there often. And that would also be one of the first places you'll find out if when the Lavender story is kind of taking that next step. We'll be sharing that on there too.
Awesome. I love how you're like, hey, just email me and I want to invest in you. Like you pour, and you constantly pour. May the Lord God continue to pour into your bosom till it's full and overflow. As you continue to pour into his people, may he continue to pour into yours exceedingly abundantly above all you could ever hope, imagine, or dream. And you have such a huge heart, and I love that you're walking in the calling of God. And I'm just excited for all that he's about to do through you, for you and your family, through Lavender. Oh my gosh. I'm super excited for you guys.
Me too.
So I want to thank you, because you're obviously a busy lady. Thank you for spending your morning with We Are Not So Different. You're truly appreciated. And until next time, my fellow We Are Not So Different family, I love you guys. Take care of yourself. And we'll do this again next week. Love y'all.
We are not so different.